Our movie begins with Captain Sinclair flying with her partner in the Afghan airspace. Before they knew it, a big-ass missile locked on their location, and they tried to evade it as much as possible. But they both ended up ejecting from their jets. The insurgents that shot them down saw them landing with their parachutes and went to their area. Sinclair's partner was shot when he tried to take down some of the insurgents, but Sinclair, the very accurate marksman, took out most of the insurgents and managed to get away from the hot zone. So, she started making her way through the Afghan desert. She tried to call for help, but nobody answered. Unfortunately, the Afghan insurgents, who know the territory so well, had been tracking her all along. And before she knew it, they'd cornered her into this bizarre area where there was a Russian bunker. For a second there, she held her own with her AK-47, but this guy had a bazooka, and even though he missed her, she was not waiting for him to reload. The bazooka blew open the door to the bunker, and since it was her only way out, she decided to get inside the bunker to hide. The bunker wasn't really what you would imagine. It's not small at all, it's actually a big-ass bunker with like tunnels and stuff. Sinclair gets inside and tries to navigate through it, but everything was written in Russian, and the place really gave off a creepy vibe. As she was going through the facility, she found this photographic recording device, which she takes. Meanwhile, as Sinclair was taking her tour, the insurgents have also made their way inside the bunker, to kill her. And once they go down the tunnels and they start looking for Sinclair, they make it to a room where inside it looked like there were men floating in a vat full of some liquid. And as they were in awe of what they were witnessing, Sinclair uses the opportunity to ambush them, and another firefight ensues. But what nobody really noticed was that during the firefight, a bunch of bullets blew up one of the vats, and whatever it was that was inside came out. And this guy thought whatever this thing is, it's probably dead. I'm gonna cover it up with a piece of plastic. Sinclair thought that she made it out, but as the monster that was inside the bunker takes out the insurgents one by one, one of the soldiers catches Kate by the foot. But before he does anything to Sinclair, the monster takes off his face. And as soon as she made it out, Sinclair saw the monster very clearly and was incredibly terrified and physically injured and was not ready to face the driver of the insurgents who was pointing a gun at her. But she was lucky enough that the driver himself got really creeped out by what he saw and he just ran away. After the driver ran away, Kate gives herself an adrenaline shot and then makes her way through the Afghan desert yet again, as this big-ass Hummer car operated by Americans literally crashes into her. When they find out that she's actually a captain and on their side, so they drive her to their quote-unquote base, which happens to be a really shitty place where they just hang out. And there she meets Finch, who tells her that they can't really help her evacuate as they're still low on resources and they have a lot of responsibility in the area. Kate tells Finch what she saw on the bunker and to go investigate it with some of his men, but he tells her that he's not gonna risk anyone. And you guys remember that guy that just ran away instead of just shooting Sinclair? Yeah, apparently, they found him wandering in the desert and they brought him back to their base. Finch also confiscates the device that Kate took from that bunker and says that he'll hold on to it until he talks to his superiors. After getting really pissed off by Finch, Sinclair notices that this is not an ordinary base as the soldiers are a bit odd, and she asks Hook what's up. And he tells her that most of these soldiers are rejects that the military doesn't want, and that's why they were assigned to this base. Lafayette happens to be a kleptomaniac that snatches everything that she can find. That guy got discharged charge because he shot somebody in the foot, and the guy with the dumbbell knocked up two of the general's daughters. And Finch was thrown under the bus by his superiors when he was told to back out of an operation and he didn't. And Hook was the person who was under Finch at the time, and they lost 2 men from their platoon. So basically, the base is a combination of military reject in a bit. Sinclair goes to the very small tent clinic to get patched up, and she describes what she saw at the bunker to some of the soldiers because of her photographic memory. She manages to write down something that she saw in the bunker. And that driver that was caught was also in the tent and apparently, he speaks both English and Russian, and he tells them that what she wrote says, "Do not open." The driver whose name happens to be Kabir corroborates Kate's story and tells them that whatever it was that she encountered inside the bunker was not human. And later that night, as the soldiers were patrolling, they were creeped out by the story and they were very cautious. But none of that mattered as the monster that was inside one of those vats makes it to the base. The monster, or should I say monsters, or start taking out the soldiers one by one.
Unknown targets advancing from the
these monsters gets inside the tent where Sinclair and Kabir were staying, and it almost got Sinclair before Kabir cut off its tongue. But none of this really mattered as the monsters were very fast and strong, and the soldiers were outnumbered. They hold together into trenches, and who constructs Lafayette and the rest of the soldiers to fall back to the armory while he and the others go to stay Finch.
Get in there!
Considering the fact that they don't have a lot of ammo and they don't have anywhere else to go, everyone who survived the attack gets inside the armory and locks themselves. So come daytime, they get out of the armory, and they find out that the soldiers that were killed were taken away by the monsters. And lucky for them, there was one monster that they killed that was just left there, and they take the body inside their tent and they try to figure out just what's going on. Hook instructs Wilkes, who happens to be a doctor, to cut open the monster and figure out what this thing is.
A reaction to the sunlight?
Wilkes discovers that the internal organs of this thing is actually human. And as everybody was incredibly confused as to how a human being looks like that, Finch wakes up and explains everything. Apparently, decades ago, there was something that landed from outer space around that area, and the Russians discovered it first and found it to be an alien spacecraft. And the Soviets at the time managed to fuse human DNA with alien DNA, and that is how you have this thing. And it's because the spaceship landed near Afghanistan that the Russians made up a bunch of reasons to invade Afghanistan, as the Soviets wanted the alien technology all for themselves. So they make a plan to go back to the bunker, blow it to bits, and wait for backup to arrive at the base with some equipment. They didn't really have a lot of ammunition left, but they had some C4 and a bunch of clips, but their plan goes horribly wrong when Hook is pulled down into the tunnels by one of the monsters. And to save him, everyone except for Wilkes goes down to the bunker, and it is then that they discovered the giant alien that the Soviets used to merge its DNA with human beings. And as expected, a bunch of the soldiers die. Lafayette's anger gets the better of her, and she gets eaten by the alien. Wilkes, who was outside and was supposed to pull their elevator with his car, gets ambushed by the insurgents. And to top things off, their radio channel from HQ comes on informing them to evacuate the area in 20 minutes as there was an incoming attack that was about to decimate the entire sector. And the insurgents finally catch up to Wilkes, and just before they detach his head from his body and put it on YouTube, Hook and Kate manage to get out of the bunker using the elevator as a pulley, and they manage to save Wilkes, take out the rest of the insurgents, and drive away using their car before the U.S. military covers its ass by nuking the entire area.